My last question is, what challenge in your life shaped you the most?
Shape me the most. Ooh.
I'm gonna end this with a banger.
Ooh. Ooh. I have a couple that I'm trying to figure out to say shape me.
Like, what would you, what, like, which challenge would be like the most, like on the number one top of like the list is the most influential, like, challenge thing that you ever went through that shaped you?
I don't know if I can say it shaped me, but it just definitely gave me a better understanding. So, and it's going to go back to my adopted mom. We did not have, like, and again, I spoke about this on my other episode. We didn't have like this warm and fuzzy mother and daughter relationship, but I still loved her. I believe she loved me, and she just did the best that she could. But now she passed away, and when she
Mm.
passed away during that time, and this was, I don't even know how many years ago now. When she passed away, I had this assumption that because we didn't have the greatest relationship, that it wasn't going to impact me that much. That I was going to still feel grief and still mourn, because that's, when you still are so close to someone, like you lived in the same space with that person,
Mm-hmm.
or even if you have a friend or someone distant, like hearing someone pass away, everyone is always like, oh my gosh, that's so sad, and you feel a sense of something. And that's what I thought it was going to be, but it actually ended up impacting me um, more than I expected, and it was because of me. I was the last person to see her when she passed away, compared to all of my other siblings. And knowing the conversation that we had before she passed away, she was in the hospital, and we had a really, for the first time in years, acknowledgement of things, apologies for things, and her saying to me, do you forgive me, and things of that nature. And I said yes. And I remember her giving me a hug when she didn't have the strength days prior, or even earlier that day.
Mm.
I was feeding her, and she couldn't even like feed herself because she didn't have the strength. But she managed to have the strength to give me a hug and say, "Can we start over?" And I said yes. And it was a real, in that moment, to me, a mother daughter moment. And then I remember going to the hospital door, and I remember turning around, and when I turned around, she blew me a kiss. And based on our relationship before, we didn't have that type of relationship for her to blow me a kiss. And I blew a kiss back to her. And when I blew the kiss back to her, it was just something that came over me, and I knew I was never going to see her again.
Mm.
Like, I knew I was never going to see her again. And I remember going downstairs because my husband and my children were supposed to come, and that they, as we were going, they were like, "No, we just don't want to see your mom like that." In hospital, my other siblings at that time were supposed to come that same day, and things happened. They didn't come, and it ended up just being the two of us, which now I know that was the way God wanted it to be. He wanted it. There were supposed to be about 10 people coming to the hospital that day. It ended up only being just the two of us. We
Oh,
had this
wow.
heart to heart conversation, and she finally acknowledged the things that we discussed and apologized. And the hug and the mother and daughter love that we probably should have had all of these years, we had it in that moment. And she passed away. And I remember feeling like a little angry, because her saying to me, "Can we start over?" And I said yes, that we never got a chance to start over. And so it impacted me more than I thought it would. And I would say that's one of the things.
That
Yeah, I went through
is Wow.
That was really one of my tough times where I was depressed. I'm an emotional eater, so that means when I'm in my feelings about stuff, I'm going to eat. And I was eating a lot instead of processing my feelings, and it was hard. It was really, really hard for me. And then I would say that it just helped me understand that even though you may have siblings or family members that you may not be close to, when they are gone, it still impacts you. It
Mm-hmm.
is and may impact the individuals who didn't have that loving relationships more, because now they feel like they lost something that they're never going to get. So,
Right.
all
Wow.
right, Jeanelle.
That's beautiful.
Was it? Because all
Not.
your questions made me go back. But I think I did good because I didn't cry. And I don't feel that I want to cry, because if you would have maybe presented me with this question years ago, I would have probably cried. But now, no. Understanding that now it was meant for us to be there together,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing now and understanding that was a closure that I needed, just the acknowledgement, the hug, and even the love from my mom in that moment. And yes, she was my adopted mom, but that's all I knew growing up. Um, Even though at some point I do um, meet my birth mother, but it wasn't until I was an adult. So she was all I knew, good, bad, or indifferent. So
That just means you're at peace, really.
I am, I
Yeah.
am, I am, and I know that again, she did the best that she could. And I remember when she passed away, just praying that God just welcomed her and forgave her for all her sins and welcomed her into heaven, and that's it. So, all right, Jeanelle, thank you so much
No problem.
for these questions. Thank you so much for being here. And I honestly want to say to you again, I am very proud of you,
Thank you.
and keep shining, keep being great. And I plan on having you back again as a guest, probably more in a girly girl. We'll have more ladies here just sharing our experiences and walks of life. And I want to
Yeah.
also, maybe if you're open to it, coming back on the show for you to let the world know more about you,
I'd love
and
that.
what is one of your biggest challenges, because I know we just went off camera for a little bit and you mentioned your dad, and I wanted you to have the opportunity to share that, so go.
Yeah, so it pretty much shaped me that tomorrow's not promised. Always cherish your loved ones, no matter what you've went through with that person. My father and I, growing up, I was definitely a daddy's girl at some point in time, but then later down the line, I just eventually kind of like pushed myself away, and I'm like, oh, I don't really need my father or whatever. Didn't really communicate with him as much as I should have,
Mm,
and it wasn't until he passed away randomly. And I don't mind saying he died of a brain aneurysm. That's when it actually hit me, and the fact that he passed away alone in the hospital by himself. It
mm,
for the longest, it ate me up in the inside, knowing that, dang, like, he died by himself. I did not want that for him. So I didn't get to have my last conversation with my father. And for a while during the time I was in Miami getting ready to get my father cremated, I was in denial of my father's death until I went to see him one last time, and that's when it hit. So
mm.
since then, um, I've learned that cherish those that you care about. So now that I just have my mother, I make sure I call her every day, have all types of conversations with her, cherish moments, because one day she's going to be gone as well. So, yeah, definitely it shaped me with that.
Okay, and thank you for sharing that. And again, I wanted you to share that piece of you so people can learn more about you, so when we bring you back on the show, we can dive more into that if you want to,
Yeah.
about how that shaped you. And even though you didn't get a chance to have that last conversation with your dad, I believe that he can hear you. So I'm sure you probably speak to him all the time, but continue to speak to him and tell him how much you love him. And I'm sure he is very proud of you. So,
Thank you.
All right.